Last night, the Washington Wizards finally lost to the Philadelphia 76ers, and literally within 45 minutes, the rumors regarding Bradley Beal already started. But the reason why those rumors started is Bradley Beal gave a different response this time than he typically would give the media, and as a result, well, we're making this video. Now, typically, I don't create these type of videos unless there's something to discuss, and this isn't to say that Bradley Beal's definitely leaving the Washington Wizards. However, I do have a pretty nice track record of being able to take a rumor, sift through the garbage, and sift through what is actually reasonable, and give a pretty nice prediction of what I think is going to happen, and at least educating you guys on it. And that's what I intend on doing so here. Now, before we get to the content, I wanted to let you guys know, a lot of you guys have been hitting me up, asking me for my take on the Los Angeles Lakers, because while I'm a Laker fan, it's been pretty hard this playoff series. So my reaction is literally in the beginning of our brand new episode of the Laced Up podcast. The link to that's in the description down below, or it's going to be in the end screen. I'm sorry if you're a LeBron fan, you're probably not going to like my reaction, but I was emotional, man. I hopefully we don't lose tonight, because if we do, you guys are going to get a pretty interesting video from me tonight as well. We're also giving away a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox Series X if you happen to subscribe and turn on our notifications on that channel. Once we hit 40,000 subscribers, and now that we get all that out of the way, cue the intro. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? This year was a very interesting season for the Washington Wizards, because not only did they trade their franchise cornerstone John Wall for Russell Westbrook a mere few weeks before the NBA season started, but you combine that with the fact that they had a brand new lottery draft pick, they were receiving one of their young players coming back from injury, and they had to integrate all of this together in the midst of a pandemic season, and yeah, you have the situation that the Wizards are in currently. Now, there was a lot of good with the Washington Wizards this season. I think they did a phenomenal job figuring it out on the fly. I feel like Bradley Beal might be the best compliment I've ever seen to Russell Westbrook so far in his career, way better than James Harden was. Not saying that he's better than Kevin Durant, but I do think that his skill set complements Russell Westbrook in a way where he doesn't need to be the alpha dog the way Kevin Durant did, and both of them had an easy time sharing who needed to take a step forward, and both players were able to play to their maximum potential with each other, and that's what I mean when I say best compliment. Now, despite losing to the Philadelphia 76ers in the first round, the good news for Washington Wizards fans is, in my opinion, I think this is a team that the problems are obvious. Your problems are primarily defensive and the fact that you're a fairly young team. These are all issues that you could potentially target in the offseason, and these are all issues that are apparent. It's not like a Rubik's Cube where you have to sit back, look at significant advanced analytics, and really try to figure out what's wrong with this team. You guys just need some more two-way stars or some better two-way players, and I think that this team could eventually get to the top 4 of the East. I also don't think it's fair to allow 2 stars to play one season together and then break them up immediately once they started to figure out their team chemistry. And now that I got all that out of the way, let me give you what Bradley Beal said in regards to his future at the conclusion of last night's game. So he even gave us a warning, guys. So I'm going to build up to what he said last night and give you some comparisons first, just so you could understand why what he said last night is significant, and just so you don't look at me as like some sort of melodramatic NBA YouTuber. So in the very beginning, this is what he said after signing his contract extension, saying, "It was more or less, do I want to have something built around me? And I had that opportunity to do that here. Or do I kind of want to test the waters? And that's kind of what made me do so. But I signed my deal and kind of structured it to where I had some flexibility, because at the end of the day, I still want to win. And the organization has to show me that we want to win. I want to see what John's like as well, so there's always going to be hope in that direction. But you still want to be able to protect yourself and be kind of selfish in that regard. How can I create some flexibility for myself if we aren't winning, or if I choose to get out?" In October, when we were running rampant with Bradley Beal rumors, because there were a ton in October, I was making a ton of videos on this man in October, and I admit it, he came out and said that teams are trying. A lot of them are calling. A lot of them are inquiring and putting packages together, trying to see if they can get me. That's not a secret. they've been doing that for the last couple of years. The Washington Wizards reaffirmed their commitment to Bradley Beal before the trade deadline, saying, like most teams around the league, Washington, despite being 15-26, aren't looking at a potential bombshell deal during the Thursday deadline. One blockbuster trade in a season's enough, referring to the Russell Westbrook trade, and nothing with Beal's situation has changed. The All-Star guard has indicated that he does not want to trade, according to the people with knowledge of the situation, and Washington has not made him available for one. And bear in mind, this is in the middle of the season where sad Brad memes are running rampant throughout the entire internet sphere in regards to this individual, despite averaging 30 points per game. There's even a report that said that Bradley Beal has so far expressed that he wants to remain in Washington and has not indicated that he prefers to be traded. Sources with knowledge tell The Athletic, and this is according to Shams Charania. So he comes out and says he is privately frustrated and confused with the perpetual portrayal of his situation, according to sources familiar with his thinking. After seeing other players take criticism for requesting to leave teams, those sources say Beal feels like he's getting nitpicked for choosing to stay in Washington, D.C., where he stayed during the entirety of his career. So when you see how he was reacting to the media in the past, and the fact that he said he wanted to have flexibility with his contract in the event that things didn't work out, you can see why this next quote would be somewhat significant. After the Philadelphia 76ers eliminated the Washington Wizards last night, Bradley Beal came out and said, "Ultimately, I'm in control. I think that's my biggest thing. People are going to report whatever they want, but I know where my mind is, and I know if it's not coming from the horse's mouth, then it's going to be rumors. I expect them. Hell, they are starting now. So it doesn't change anything. I guess it's going to increase a lot more this year with me going into the final year of my deal. But for me, I'm just relaxing, resting my body, and we'll evaluate all of that when summer comes." And look, this isn't him saying, "Yo, Washington, I'm leaving you for sure," but when has a player ever said that? Hell, even Dwight Howard, when it was a known thing that he was frustrated with the Los Angeles Lakers, didn't come out and say that he's leaving the Lakers that offseason, and he literally left to the Houston Rockets the moment he had the opportunity to do so. Bradley Beal offers some insight into why players are so loyal recently. You look at a player like Bradley Beal, you look at a player like Damian Lillard, you look at other star players that choose to remain with their team. Bradley Beal and Damian Lillard are remarkable superstars, but when you are a superstar player and you leave your team to join another team, that team's identity isn't necessarily focused around you anymore. You see, if you're playing in a small market team, since it's significantly harder for a small market team to acquire talent, that team will do whatever it takes to build around you. You are the guy, you are the top dog in the organization, no matter who ends up coming to your team. A good example is the Golden State Warriors. When Steph Curry was there and they were dominating, Kevin Durant ended up joining the Warriors after a 73-9 season, and he would eventually leave after winning 2 championships just because he didn't feel like that was his team. It was Steph Curry's team, despite Kevin Durant being the best player on that team. But what's going to be extremely tempting for Bradley Beal is, as I'm watching these NBA playoff games, whether it's the Los Angeles Clippers or the Los Angeles Lakers or the Golden State Warriors without Klay Thompson, many of these teams are lacking what Bradley Beal brings to the table. Whenever I watch Laker games, I say this team is missing another go-to scorer that could take pressure off of LeBron James, creating for his teammates, especially when Anthony Davis isn't on the floor. The same could be said about the Los Angeles Clippers, although this is a team that, in my opinion, was missing prime, well, I'd say Lou Williams from 2 years ago or 3 years ago's scoring ability. And although Bradley Beal is what Lou Williams used to be to the Clippers, but, you know, on a different tier, you can't even compare the two players in terms of basketball skill. So it's going to be extremely tempting if you're Bradley Beal. What matters to you? This is a man that actually went on record to say that he has enough money, so clearly what matters to him the most is winning. Could we see Bradley Beal on the Golden State Warriors? Could we see Bradley Beal on the Miami Heat? Could we see Bradley Beal get traded to the Lakers or the Los Angeles Clippers? I think out of every team in the NBA, remaining as objective in my analysis as possible, the best team that could acquire any player so far, should they decide to do so, is the Golden State Warriors, especially if the Minnesota Timberwolves top 3 protected pick ends up falling outside of the top 3. So although this isn't a foregone conclusion that Bradley Beal is going to leave his team, I feel like the opportunity for the Washington Wizards to potentially speed up a rebuild, free up some cap space, and possibly even flip Russell Westbrook for some more assets and focus more on the development of Rui Hachimura and Deni Avdija could be very tempting for the Washington Wizards. But again, nothing set in stone. This is just my analysis as to what could happen with Bradley Beal, but I want to get your take in the situation in the comment section down below. Do you think Bradley Beal would leave the Washington Wizards? Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.